Thank you so much, Janelle. We have Janelle Joy here of Janelle Joy Photo Editors with us today to talk about all things editing. And this is a huge topic. It's something that everybody seems to be excited to hear about. I've never had a topic go so hot in our Facebook group, and people be so excited to ask questions and really get engaged and excited about. So I'm super excited that you're here today. Thank you for your time. And if you don't mind, just give us a background about who you are, where you come from, and how you kind of got your start as an editor.
Yeah, okay. I would love to do that. So, first off, how amazing. I didn't realize this was such a hot topic. So a little pressure over here, but I'm really excited. Really quick. So I have been a photographer. Gosh, I have lost count, probably over 15 years. But back in 2016, I made this big pivot and I just saw this huge need in our industry that wasn't being met. And that was just a really personal approach to outsourcing your editing. And so I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, this is like for me. This is what I need to do. This is how I'm going to help others. And it really just took off from there. So that's just the very short version of how I ended up from photographer to private editor. And now I run a whole team. I think there's 12 of us, 12 editors, so 13 of us total. And we all, well, I actually don't edit anymore. It's kind of sad, but I run the team. And then the rest of the girls, they each work one-on-one with their photographers and edit for them. So it's pretty amazing.
That's incredible. And I'm blessed enough that I can say that I work with your team too. I use you guys for my editing. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free. We're here to answer questions from both sides of the using a private photo editor whole thing. So that's exciting too. But we want to hear all about you, Janelle, and let's see, people are still jumping in here, so I'm just making sure to let people in as they come in. But like you said, it's been 15 years from photographer to where you are now. Wow.
Gosh, probably longer than 15 years. I mean, this is going to age me, you guys. I think I started, oh my gosh, I think I started in 2004 as a photographer. I know. My little girl, my first one was just, roughly around 2. And I wanted the pretty pictures, how that story goes. And then it's evolved from there. So I've done wedding photography, seniors, like I've done all of it. But I have to say my passion is absolutely the editing. It's so magical to watch an image just come to life and really just get that final punch that we give to our clients that we love.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would you say your editing style is if you had to, well, I mean, I'm sure you can explain it up and down, but if you had to say your specific photography editing style for you.
Yes. Okay. So you guys, this has evolved, which is like something that I love to teach about. So when I first started, it's always been like clean and classic from the very beginning. I've always acclimated towards that, but it has tended to like shift through the years, and that is totally normal as an artist. But now it's kind of landed on, I would call it clean and classic, but with kind of a light and airy approach, not so much airy, but I love kind of like the soft, the pastels, but still have like the punch in it too. So it's not floating off of the page. And so I love color, all of those things. And so it's kind of morphed into what I like to call my unique editing style that makes it really just kind of what clients searched out for me to do for them.
That was stated so lovely. I think that a lot of us struggle with explaining our editing style. I know I do, even though I've had my specific editing style, my unique editing style for so long, I still have a hard time saying out loud exactly what it is. I'm like, well, I fall into the realm of light and airy, but I don't like to consider myself really light and airy because I don't like the airy word attached to it. And wow, you just said that so lovely.
Thank you. I hope that I know a little bit about that stuff. We work with so many different photographers, and so it's fun to hear everyone describe kind of what their style is. And some people, I mean, a lot, even seasoned photographers have a little bit of that struggle to really nail down to explaining what their style is.
Yeah, even if they know what it is by doing it, it's hard to tell somebody else how to do it. Now, when you were just starting to edit for other people, was it hard to change your editing style or to edit for another person's style. Talk to me about that. I think a lot of us are curious about that.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I considered when I hired you guys, was like, well, am I going to get matched with someone who has my editing style or not? Or do they even need that? I don't know, you know?
So that is like the golden question, right? So when you hire an editor, you're kind of thinking, well, am I going to then morph into this particular editing style that this editor is good at? But no, for me, it was really easy to edit for different editing styles, because it really comes down to, one, does the photographer know what their style is? And then we have processes in place to make sure that we match that style of theirs. And then the number two thing is really the talent of being able to see those colors. And so each of my editors, like, I put them through a grueling process through the editing. And so that I know that they can match to a photographer style and not make it their like take on it. So it's really fun. Honestly, I love taking an image and being able to make sure it matches to their style. Like, it's kind of fun for me to edit in all different styles, because when we do our own stuff, clearly we're not jumping from different style to different style. So it's really fun, honestly, to kind of jump into each one and see how people do things. I've actually learned quite a bit about Lightroom through doing that through these years too. And so it's just been, I don't know, just really fun, honestly.
I'm coming up with so many questions as you're talking. It's just fascinating. Most of us, you know, we think maybe we develop our own style or not, or we struggle in that area. And then that's what we do. Like, for me personally, I could teach what I do to edit all day long, but I don't know what the process is for a dark and moody photo, for a flash photographer, for all the different styles. I would have no idea how to help someone. So I just think that that is so cool that you can match so many different editing styles and that you understand all those different techniques and things that go into each one. So this is really neat.
Thank you. No, we do. We love it. And honestly, going with what you're saying is, you know, I really want people to understand that you don't have to fit into this like light and airy category or clean and classic. I can take photographers, clean and classics. I can give you 5 different ones and tell you they're all clean and classic. They all are a little bit different. And so that's what makes it unique to each person.
And that's what makes us each personal and our own brand and our own product, which is so important, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what makes you confident. I want you guys to be confident in your style. Like, that is so important, and get out of that comparison trap that we all fall in. Like, let's be real, we all fall in it, even if we've been doing this for 15 years. It's very easy to fall into.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are kind of afraid to talk about how we learned Lightroom, because I think I don't know, but I think a lot of photographers just kind of like get in there and start doing stuff and try to take some YouTube classes. They watch YouTube videos, and that's how I think a lot of people learn how to edit in Lightroom or in other editing formats. But I think I was lucky in that when I wasn't a photographer yet and I was just starting to learn and get an interest in photography, I worked at Penn State College of Medicine, and I had access to their entire library of online and the books. We could order books from anywhere in the country with their library, and it was really cool. And I had access to lynda.com, which has tons of training and courses, including editing courses. So I was able to take an entire course on just general editing in Lightroom before I even got Lightroom. So I had an idea, but I don't think that's normal. Do you have any idea how other photographers go about learning to edit?
Yes and no. So I'm a huge advocate of getting in there and playing with Lightroom. And then the YouTube videos are actually really helpful. Like, there's going to be things like maybe you won't know, and you can YouTube it. But I think the most helpful, honestly, is just investing. And I think most of you guys here know this, but investing in that education so that you can find someone that can kind of walk you through specifically what you need. But yeah, you guys, this again, like, when I started photography, Lightroom didn't even exist. And so it was Photoshop. And I took like a photography course, and within that course, they taught how to do things within Photoshop actions, if you guys are familiar with Photoshop at all. And then honestly, it wasn't until right before I thought about doing private editing that I jumped into Lightroom, because I knew it needed to be done in Lightroom. And so I really like took what I knew as editing knowledge and then applied that into Lightroom and really learned a lot of things. And I will honestly be here. I'm a professional photo editor. I do not know the ins and outs of every single piece of Lightroom because it's such a powerful tool, but I do know the things that are needed on the everyday basis to make sure your images get to where they need to be. And so, YouTube does help for sure. Like, I don't knock YouTube at all. I've even done it myself. Like, hey, help me understand this in Lightroom. And so, I think one, practice. We need to practice. We need to practice shooting. We need to practice understanding light, what that does when we edit within Lightroom. All of these pieces are huge parts of the whole round piece of photography. And so really, it's just kind of that education and practice. Those two things are really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how do you train your editors to edit? I mean, I know that you've done all the work and you know all the things, but when somebody approaches you and says that they want to edit for you, how do you train them?
That another golden question. I don't train them. Okay, but let me tell you why I don't train them. I don't hire an editor to come on. I hire an editor who already knows their stuff to come on, and then I train them on how to make sure that they're taking care of clients, how we would do all of that so that they are really solid. But like I said, I put my editors through a grueling interview process. Like, I am sending them like difficult catalogs to edit that I want to see if they can pick up and make sure that that's consistent, that they pick up on fine things that I'm going to see. So when I hire someone, I don't train them. I tell them straight out, I don't train on Lightroom. I want somebody who already knows it. On the flip side of that, though, is I have helped photographers like learn Lightroom. So I've done like one-on-one mentoring to even like help get their base preset to where they want it, to help maybe fine tune what their editing style is. That's something that I've done, but I don't train my editors. I expect them to be pretty awesome, and they're amazing.
I can second. I've had two of your editors at this point, and they were both like incredible. There's this whole initial process of working with a new editor. And, you have to send in a couple of, what do we call them? Just previews and testers. I forget what we call it.
So we call them sample sets, but yeah, for you guys, it's called anchor images. Like, every time you send something, it gives us a foundation. You guys are there, you know what colors you want. So we're not having to guess it. We know, and then we match to all of that. So.
But yeah, the first couple sample sets, before you just send a whole catalog to get edited, they'll send back a couple of testers and to make sure that you're happy with it. I to this day, have hardly had any feedback at all. It's like, yeah, it's perfect. Go for it. Cool. It's so magical.
I have to say, I think your feedback that you gave that first time was one of my most favorite feedbacks. I think you were just like, I just sat down there and I was just crying. It was so perfect. And that weight was lifted off of me. And that's why we do it. That's why we do it. It's so great to see photographers flourish after feeling so bogged down and stressed out. And we love it. It's our passion, really.
Yeah. And I can say, I actually really like editing. I do. I honestly like editing. It's just that I have other things that I want to do with my life other than edit. And yeah, that first time I got a catalog back, and I mean, the entire process, you guys don't necessarily need to know the entire process of working with an editor, but you load in the catalog and then you just start scrolling and all the images kind of pop. And it was like, oh my gosh, they're all just perfect and done. And it's just so freeing and magical. And it's like, well, there we go. I'm just going to send it off to the client. I don't have to do anything else. It's really cool.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get into that too detailed here, but I just can't help but mention it. But switching gears from kind of the beginning and learning to edit, since we're already on the topic of using a photo editor, how does someone know when they're ready to use an editor at the end of the day? Because we work so hard on developing that editing style and whatnot, and it's just so hard to let go. of the control.
Yeah, I know. We're so controlling. Like, I think a lot of us have a hard time letting go of that control. And when I first started doing private photo editing, that wasn't really a known thing. I would say I wasn't the first person to do it, but I am probably one of the pioneers of doing this. And so it was like, wait, what? You want to take my images? I don't know if I'm okay with that. That control is pretty normal feeling. But okay, first things first, to be ready, you need to know your editing style. If you don't know it, we don't know it, and it becomes a really frustrating process for you. And I don't want that. And so if you don't know your editing style, that's the first thing that you need to do is really nail down what it is. And then you're ready to hire someone if that's what you want to do. The second thing is if you've already got that and you are, consistent, all of those things, which is amazing. It's more of just, okay, now you need to think of it as a business. So a lot of times us artists like to think of like, it's mine. I got to do this. It's just like my masterpiece. I don't want anyone touching it. And all of that's just like our artist mentality. But the second piece of all of the artist thing is we have to run a business and it has to run as smooth as possible. And so it's a business decision. We spend so much time behind the computer editing. I would say it's one of the largest chunks of time a photographer has is behind the computer. So if you can just even free that up, it's like thinking in that concept of, okay, I have all this time, what would I pour that into? And so it can be better client experiences. So then you get more referrals. It can be, like more time for like family and like not having to feel that burnout. And so it's just really just thinking through like, okay, this is a business. How can I run this so that I'm a better photographer, a better provider for all of my clients, all of those things. And that's kind of the piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. But I think the biggest question that most of us have, especially those starting out, is how in the world do you develop your own editing style?
Yes, that is a good question. It becomes just kind of like a process. It's something that I love to teach on. I've taught on this before. It's really just taking, and I have like a step-by-step process, but it's really just going out there, figuring out your likes and your dislikes, fine-tuning what those likes and dislikes are. Again, playing around in Lightroom. If you need to, you can hire somebody to help you like fine-tune what that might be. But ultimately it's practice, figuring out what that is, figuring out what your likes and dislikes are, and just going with it. And I would say even putting your blinders on for a little bit. We can draw inspiration. I encourage drawing inspiration, but don't feel like because you didn't hit this person's way, this person's look is yours isn't as good. So there's a balance between inspiration and then just getting stuck because you feel like you're not as good. So it's like a lot of different things, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I started out, I had this one photographer in my head that I wanted my editing style to be like this photographer's. And I did everything I could to try to get there. And in that process, I found out things that I liked and didn't necessarily match that editing style. And at the end of the day, I love my editing style and I'm pretty well known for it. And I'm really happy that I didn't try harder to get to that other photographer's editing style, because then it would be them and not me.
Exactly.
And yeah. But
I think too with that is I think when you try to mimic someone else's style, that might not actually be your natural like thing. And so every time you go into Lightroom, it's hard. It's hard because it isn't naturally, you haven't taken the time to really figure out what you're acclimated to, what you love, what are your like main things. And so you're trying to mimic something that may not come naturally to your style, which makes things harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a good point to share that Janelle's actually going to be teaching a class for us on how to develop your own unique editing style. So she's going to be taking students step by step through the process and helping students through Lancaster Photography School go through that process. It's really exciting. It's going to be March 1st and it's already on the calendar. I just put it on this morning. So I'm super excited for that, but that's not the whole reason why we're here today. We wanted to share that, but we want to get into your questions and things that you were asking in the group. So let me just look here at our list and let's get started because we are already 23 minutes in and I want to make sure we get to as many people's questions as possible.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of questions. So Keith wants to know, I don't fully comprehend the difference between editing RAW as opposed to editing JPEGs. Over the years, I've learned how to make my pictures somewhat pop through editing software, but I don't really understand what the advantages I'm missing out on by not editing RAW. That's a great question.
It is. Okay, so from just my photo editing, my years of knowledge, the difference between JPEG and RAW is that every time you go in and edit a JPEG and save it, and then go in and edit a JPEG and save it, it lessens its gosh, I don't even know the word I'm trying to say. It's basically its quality gets less and less each time. And another thing with the difference between JPEG and RAW is literally like the word raw, and it gives you the ability to make more changes easily. Like a JPEG, you might struggle making those changes. It's almost like it's fighting against you, versus the RAW is just like, cool, I'm ready for you to just like make me a masterpiece. The JPEG's like, I'm kind of already a masterpiece, so I'm going to give you a little bit of like struggle here. So that's kind of like the difference. You might not see it, but I see it because we've had photographers accidentally shoot some of their stuff in JPEG, and I'm always like, oh. And I will be honest, it is almost near impossible to match everything consistently when that happens. And we do the best, and we would usually get it to the point where a client won't notice the difference. We always notice difference because we really like are detailed like that. But yeah, JPEG and RAW, they fight each other.
Can I give you an example I've explained with before?
Yes.
So I like to explain the difference between JPEG and RAW as going to get your makeup done. So sometimes us girls don't like to go anywhere without a little bit of makeup on. So if you go to get your makeup on, or if you go to get your makeup professionally done and you go in with just like a little bit of base foundation, I just got to put a little mascara on and a little lip gloss, like just to feel good and not embarrassed. When you go in, there's not a whole lot that the professional can do at that point because you already have kind of done stuff to your face and it's already has some stuff done to it. So she can only like do a little bit from there. You know, you can't put mascara back, you know, over top of already done mascara, and you can't put on the fake lashes with mascara already on and things like that. But when you go in with a completely fresh face and nothing on at all, you know, she can start with the toner, she can start with the lotion, she can build it up from the very, very base foundation and make it something really magnificent and make lots of changes. It's kind of like a raw image. When you take a raw image in, you can build it wherever you want it to go at that point. So that's just how I explain it.
I love that. That's like the perfect, like, it's really easy to understand that. That's perfect.
I found I was actually trying to explain that to a makeup artist. And I was like, that's great. That's a great way to explain it. I think that I understand that too.
Yeah.
All right. Question 2. Allie wants to know, I'm wondering if you have a recommendation for how to prepare photos for printing, depending upon size and medium. She says, I do okay with standard gloss, lustered matte, but is there a general rule for a 12x8 or metal or acrylic or etc.? Also, Shelby wants to know about the export process. I feel like that's a big topic to cover here, but I don't know if you can address it in some way here.
I'm going to make this really simple. I am not an expert on the printing process. I wish that I was, but I'm on the make it all perfect, consistent, like get things going. And then the printing process is so not my area of expertise. So I am definitely the wrong person to ask for any printing. And amazingly enough, one of my editors, she stepped down and is a backup editor for us now. She used to work for the president of the United States, like chief photographer. Anyway, she's amazing. And she does that. Like even in the last inaugural thing, she was behind the scenes as they were taking pictures. She was getting them ready to be printed and hung up wherever that is in the White House. So I could essentially ask her, but that is like its own course. I feel like it's a whole beast for sure.
Yeah. And you guys do the editing and send them off for us to export.
Yes. Right. We don't do the export. We make them pretty and consistent. Yes.
Okay. So the next 3 questions are all time management questions. So Cindy, I'm just going to kind of like sum up here. Cindy is, hello. My questions are workflow. She shoots mostly sports, so it's comparable to weddings as far as like volume. So think weddings here, lots and lots of volume. She also does seniors, and she's having a hard time balancing workflow to be more efficient. Sean also says I'm shooting weddings, and admitted an overshooter, which I feel like we all are, because it's good to overshoot on a wedding day. You just shoot, shoot, shoot. And what's the best way to plow through a large volume of photos? Brittany says I need time management answers. How long does it take you to cull, edit, etc.? And I think there's even more questions about it. So there you go. Everybody wants to know how to be more efficient and save time.
Yes, that is like the big, like, hey, how can I save time? That's, everyone wants to save time. Really, it comes down to figuring out a workflow that you love and that you're going to stick to. Cause I can give you a whole workflow and you're just gonna be like, oh, I don't like that. And you don't stick to it. But, culling, be fast at your culling. I feel like a lot of people get stuck on, you've got like 5 of the same images. Oh, I don't know which one. I don't know which one. Then they give like, 3 of those 5. Really just don't get so attached. Just be like, it looks good. Your clients don't know that you have 5 of those same images. Just grab one. So culling, I think, just get less emotional about it. Some people will cull from the end to the beginning versus starting from the beginning to end. So it's not like, I don't know. I think it's just a psychological thing. Like you just shot a full day of weddings and now you're sitting down and it's just almost like cumbersome. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this all again, but it makes it so that it doesn't feel like it's almost like you're starting with something fun and fresh again. I don't know. So some people will start from the end to the beginning, but culling for sure, you need to get down a lot quicker. And then as you get quicker with it, you'll probably cull tighter, so you don't have like 1,500 images from a wedding to edit versus, even getting that down to 1,000. And then after that, getting systems in place. So when you load these into Lightroom, there's certain things that you should be doing, like applying the preset automatically. Like what can these things do that will just shave off a little bit of time each time that will then ultimately like combine a big amount of time that you've saved. For us, gosh, it just depends. I would say I can probably edit, and most of my photographers probably edit, depending on the photographer, anywhere from like, gosh, I don't know, like 250 images to 300 per hour. I don't know. It just depends. Like it can be less or more. But I usually can do a whole wedding in a day. Yeah. So, and that's not a full work day, but it's just in a day. But sometimes our brains need a break. So we'll step away for a minute and then we'll come back. So really it's just practice, learning your keyboard shortcuts. It's like a lot of different things that go into how you can make your workflow a lot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, back to the having an actual style, having an editing style that you are trying to match every single time and getting good at that style. Instead of trying to be super creative in that you're making one style this day and another style another day. So first step is having a style and then learning all the shortcuts and workflow to get there quickly, right?
Right. We'll just stop reinventing the wheel every time you go in. And then one more piece that popped in my mind as you were saying that, don't get stuck on all the brushwork. I am a huge advocate of getting away from all the brushwork. I mean, like Lightroom's gotten amazing and they have the AI masking. That's awesome. That's helped save a ton of time, but I don't want you to rely on masking and brushwork to get your editing style where you need it. I'm like a huge advocate of getting it done on the normal basic panels on the side and not having to just brushwork every single image. It's too much.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes, I do not get stuck in brushing. If I'm brushing one picture, it's like, because it's the picture, like it's the picture and it's the one, and they're not going to see all the other ones. Because once you brush one, then you have to brush the rest. And oh my gosh, the time that can take is just incredible. I would like to add too, that getting your shooting down, using the lighting the same way every single time so that you're using the light in a way that is flattering and you're not trying to brighten a shadow that's over here because that's almost impossible to do, or that you're always using the same types of backgrounds so that the preset that you do go in using actually works. If you're always shooting, if you're shooting in this type of light one day and this type of light the next day, you can't take a preset that you've developed for yourself and apply it and have it actually work or even get you close, it's going to be so far off and you're going to feel like you're starting at square one every single time. So getting good at using the lighting the same way every time, and your camera settings, using your camera in a very specific process as you're shooting, like we teach in natural light photography, and get more out of your camera. We have a workshop coming up in March. Yep, I think it's in March for those two classes combined, where we actually go outside and we see the light and we see what's going on there. We actually get our cameras out and shoot and learn that process of step by step how to set the settings in camera. That class is huge and basically the basis for editing at all, because you need to have a consistent something to bring in to edit from. And that right there will save you a ton of time before you even bring the photos in.
Yep. And I couldn't say that any better. They go hand in hand, but you have to know how to shoot and look at light and see how to do it and what that means for your style. So they're very intermixed. You have to have that piece, or again, you're gonna get so frustrated in your editing. You're not gonna understand why it's not working.
Yeah. I would say natural light first, then camera settings, then find your style, then learn how to be quick in Lightroom, then hire an editor.
Perfect.
Yeah,
absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah. All right. Back to the questions. Let's see. Yep. Another time question here. I really want to make my photos sharper and pop. I feel like so many photos I see, they are so sharp and clear, yet the photo has this smooth, perfect look to it. My photos don't have that, but I know I need help with my camera settings. I'm a hobbyist and I've never really taken much time to learn and more like that. So yeah, I feel like it comes right back to what we just said. Do you want to add anything to that?
Really, it's just like getting it. I mean, it could not be sharp because maybe the focus wasn't right where it needed to be. It can be a plethora of things, but yeah, once you get that in camera, then I can show you the beauty of how to make it look like you were just describing in Lightroom for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony says, I'm a videographer that's recently gotten into photography a couple of years ago. I like shooting off camera flash and natural light. I like bold, vivid colors, but was wondering about the light and airy style and if that's done in post. And Stephanie also was asking how to edit light and airy photos, like I see a lot of wedding photographers these days with delicate hues. That's
okay,
a question.
I'm guessing delicate hues means kind of like pastel type colors. So light and airy, again, it comes also how you shoot. And one way I like to describe this is if you've got a background with like a lot of like dark behind you, like dark trees, bushes, whatever that might be, versus if you just moved your subject to where there's maybe more sky, which one looks more airy, right? It's that background. But then post-process, it's how you want to like do your shadows. Are you lifting them? Like, are you lifting them to the point where it's too airy? Like it's all done hand in hand. So your images already coming out with the right kind of light, right kind of background, if you want to like an airier look, and then how you're going to achieve that final piece within Lightroom. So I know that this particular question could take like a full half an hour to explain. So I'm giving you guys like little micro pieces. But yeah, I feel like if you guys gain anything from this live, it's like the two pieces of shooting things how you want them, getting the light how you want it, and then knowing what your style is and how to achieve that in Lightroom are going to just skyrocket your photography.
Yep, absolutely. And they all go together. Sarah says, my biggest struggle is consistency in finding my style. Definitely agree with others on cutting down on time. I feel like we've already kind of talked about that one. Elite Photo Work says, and this one I don't understand, so I'm hoping you do, because I don't no idea what she's talking about. Cases for switching between color spaces and color modes, and when to change between 8 bits, 16 bits, and 32 bits / channel. Okay. That's another language I don't understand. So
I don't do a lot of that color space. I think a lot of that's done in like Adobe Camera Raw, sometimes in Photoshop, but from what little I could tell you about the color space that you're probably talking about would be what we considered the profile. So color space would be like Adobe standard Adobe color. Sometimes presets that we purchase will actually have a profile attached to it that makes the color. It's a whole thing that they create. It's doing things behind the scenes. So that depends on your style. That all just, if there's not a right or wrong with that, it just depends on your style. And then the 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, I don't know for sure, but I would say that that is more due to like the quality and the amount like that image does. So that would be something I would highly suggest just Googling. I'm sure there's somebody out there that gave you a really long technical explanation of what all of those pieces are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, I feel like we're missing some questions here. Let me see. We have a lot of questions. Or maybe I just misnumbered. So Jenna wants to know what it takes to become an editor and how to find clients and the top skills that you need to have. Like if she wants to become an editor, how do you go about that?
Okay, I love that question. First things first is you got to know Lightroom. So you're going to need to know how to like take an image and where you need to go in Lightroom to make those adjustments, whether it's color, like do you do the color in like the HSL panel? Do you need to go into the tone curve? You need to be able to mimic what your client wants. So maybe practicing with maybe some friend photographers like, hey, can I try to match your editing? I think that practice goes a long ways. First. And then the second thing is once you start, the hardest part of any business is just lifting it off the ground, right? So get that first client, take care of them, do a really good job. That is huge. Like I started small. I never intended to have 12 editors. I'm being totally honest. I thought it was just gonna be me. I was totally happy with it. And then life took a different direction and here we are. And so really, it started with my first client. I was so excited. The best moment is like when I saw all of her images and then it built from there. And honestly, most of my business, especially in the beginning, even still is referral based. And so take care of your clients, do an exceptional job, and your business it will organically grow.
That's great. That's a great answer. I have a question I know that some people probably have this on their mind. I have never actually opened Photoshop ever. Believe it or not, I don't use Photoshop ever to edit because I'm big on getting it right in camera so that I'm not spending a lot of time editing at all. But I know there's some great uses for it and I probably could use it and learn it at some point. So if you had to give the like explanation of Photoshop versus Lightroom, why you should be using one or the other, I think it would be helpful for some people to hear.
Yeah, I'm going to just be totally honest, Lightroom first. Photoshop is slow. It's really great for maybe those images that maybe you're getting published, that you need to do some fine tuning, masking, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is so much more powerful in Photoshop than it is in Lightroom. Lightroom's getting better, but I don't like to do head swaps or object removals and that kind of stuff in Lightroom. It's just clunkier. It doesn't work as well. But most of your editing should be done in Lightroom. It's quicker. It streamlines your editing much faster. It's the whole thing. I started with Photoshop. I could go down the rabbit hole with you guys. It's actions. It's not presets. It's like all these different things. But once you're in Lightroom, it's just so much quicker. The only thing I would say is if you are needing to fine tune stuff, I will say spot removals, like background removals, head swaps, they work so much better in Photoshop. I don't even think you can do head swaps in Lightroom. I've never even tried, but head swaps always in Lightroom. And then going from there, like spot removals, I even think like when you have to take acne off, like all of those things work so much better in Photoshop than they do in Lightroom.
Do you think that like newborn photographers and maybe even like senior photographers might need to edit in Photoshop because of all of the blemishes? Like babies always have red on their face, the pimples and just the newborn acne, they call it. And teens just sometimes have really tough skin. Do you think that that might be like their go-to editing process?
Absolutely. Yes. So your process would be first to start in Lightroom. Or you can do the opposite. It doesn't matter. But usually what I'll do is I would edit to get my image, colors, everything I want, and then I'd throw it into Photoshop and finish up those final pieces. But newborn photographers, we actually don't think we work with any, because most of them do need Photoshop, and we don't do Photoshop work with our clients. But yeah, they have like, they need to do stuff with like their skin, they need to extend backgrounds. There's a lot more. And that's why newborn photography, you are going in, and that is one area where you're going to have brushwork and all of the fun stuff. And so that's why you make sure you're charging your clients for that time.
Absolutely. It's a whole different thing to try to talk to, people who are newborn photographers or senior photographers ask me about my process and my packages and things like, well, it's totally different. I feel like it's a totally different product that we're producing for our clients. And I don't think you can compare them really, in all honesty. I'm out of questions myself. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as I ask Janelle to plug everything you have. And where can we find more Janelle Joy? Because I do know, because I follow her on Instagram, that her Instagram is super cool, because she gives us lots of little tips and tricks for Lightroom and lots of fun things that I've learned some things from her Instagram about editing and processes and Lightroom, and it's just fun to follow her. But tell us where we can find more Janelle Joy in our lives.
You're so sweet. So Janelle, it's Janelle Joy, I think _ photo editor, or private photo editor. Gosh, I should know my Instagram handle. But easily, if you just type in Janelle Joy, and private editor usually comes up. So I'm on there, and like Megan was saying, I have some tips, especially in the reels. I give like quick little wins for you guys, in there. And then my, website, janellejoy.com. So, if any of you, want to reach out, that's probably the easiest way through that. And I get in contact with you from there. So those two areas make it easy.
Yeah. And honestly, guys, if anybody is considering possibly, maybe thinking about possibly hiring an editor, you will not regret it. I promise, if you use Janelle anyway. I've never used another photo editor. Janelle Joy's team has been my go-to from the very start of outsourcing, and they've made it such a positive experience that I can't even imagine not using a photo editor anymore. I always thought that it was going to be, just still a lot of work once they got the pictures back, because I'd still have to like straighten the picture the way I wanted it to be, or this, that, and the other thing. In all honesty, it is not at all. I literally get the gallery back like perfect. Export, upload to a gallery, done. And that is key, I feel like, in continuing to do this over and over and over again every single weekend. And I always say, if you're planning on scheduling work every weekend or a couple days a week, if you can't turn around your work in the time it takes to get to the next shoot, you need to do something. You either need to schedule less work, or you need to hire some help. And an editor is really the go-to answer to that. So if anybody is just nervous or would like to consider it, I'm sure Janelle would set something up with one of her editors for you to talk to them and, get to know them, because they're also seriously all sweet as pie. And they're just so sweet and wonderful, and they care about you and your work. And that's hard to find. So just had to plug you there on my own. So
you're so sweet. Thank you so much. And then along with that, we tend to have a wait list. I'll be totally honest. We do have a few spots, but it's just, please reach out, because we pull people from the wait list all the time. Life happens, we get openings, or my editors want more clients, they open things up. So it doesn't mean if we have a wait list, you're never getting in. That's not it at all. And then if you do go to my website, I do actually, as I'm thinking this, I have an email that you're welcome to sign up. And there's we give all kinds of tips, and we try to really help photographers with their businesses, not just editing, all of that stuff. So anyways, it's all there for you guys.
But before you hire an editor, you need to have your own editing style. So if you are struggling with deciding on your editing style, or you just want to fine tune your editing style, come to the class in March. It's all online. So we'll be able to teach pretty much just like this. It will be Janelle teaching and sharing her screen and giving you all the tips and tricks that you need to develop your own unique editing style that's all your own, that you'll be known for. And that is a really cool thing, to have your own editing style. So definitely a class that you do not want to miss. So please come and join us there and get more of Janelle Joy. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Somebody has a question here. Can you share what some of the editing styles might be? That's tough. Guys, go ahead.
A whole bunch of them, but I can give you general top or general titles, I should say. You've got light and airy, clean and classic, dark and moody, warm, bold and beautiful. Like these are all kind of different styles, but like I was saying, even with mine, I would say I'm clean and classic, light. I wouldn't say I'm airy, but I have a little bit of airy to it, and I love color. So I've mixed all that into my style. And so you don't need to be stuck in just like, I'm light and airy. You can make something of light and airy and make it more you, if that's not exactly what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Everybody's saying thank you. So we really appreciate your time and everything. We are pretty much at time. Oh, we have one more question. Sorry. Joe wants to know, Lightroom question, does the sequence in which you adjust images matter, such as white balance before exposure, hues, tones, etc.?
Yes, it does actually matter. I have a way that I'm like, okay, if you get your thing in there, you apply your preset, what do we do first? And so I like to walk you guys through all of that so that you can kind of know. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but there are a few things for sure that I want you to go in there and adjust first, because sometimes those first adjustments are all you need to do before you get bogged down in the little things. So
Yeah. And little known fact, I think Janelle might be teaching another class later in the year to help you with those workflows, but we're still working on the details of that one. So first things first, you need to decide on what you want your style to be. So come take that class and get more of Janelle and me. So I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your lunchtime. Janelle, it was great to meet you via video, actually in person, face to face. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.